Good evening. There being a quorum present, this special session of the Howe City Council is hereby called to order on Tuesday, August 8th, 2023 at 6 p.m. under the Open Meetings Act of the State of Texas. Before we can begin, please remove your caps, silence your phones. Thank you. And let's stand for prayer and the pledges, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all here together today. I pray for wisdom for each of us and patience while we work through this budget process. And thank you so much for allowing us to be part of the city and a part of this great country. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. So before we begin, I just want to mention that our city administrator, he had called me this evening to let me know that he's going to be out this evening because he's sick and not feeling well. So just wanted you to all know over on that. He did say that Jeff and I went over several things on the budget, and he said that Joe could probably help us answer some questions if we had questions that he might need to answer, or we can ask him at a later time, Jeff. So right now we're going to enter our public requests. At this time, comments will be taken from the audience on any subject, whether that item is on the agenda. All comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, council may not discuss or act on any of the items not posted on the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to make a statement or public request? Okay. All right, let's move on to our current business, which is the budget workshop. And also, unless council disagrees, if after the department heads, after your department has been discussed, if you want to stay, you're welcome to stay. If you choose to leave, I don't have a problem. But it's I'm gonna leave that up to the council and what they want to do and what you guys want to do. But you're welcome to stay. Joe, would you be okay with that if someone wanted to leave?
Yeah, I want to leave, but I can't.
Okay.
No, that's a joke.
All right. So current budget and budget fiscal year 2023 and 2024. So the proposed budget, just so you're all aware, this is what our city administrator is proposing, and that we had all received in our packet. In addition to that, I do have some of the department heads' individual budget as well that I had requested. So first up, Joe, since this is my first budget meeting, please feel free to direct me otherwise if I'm doing it incorrectly. But I believe we would need to start with code enforcement. Joe. Mr. Shaw.
Well, there's a couple things we need to make sure that the new council members understand.
Okay.
At the very top, on the very first page, under ad valorem tax, the $1,041,000 figure is subject to change once the certified tax rolls, or once the tax rolls and tax evaluations have been made finalized by the taxing people at the county. So that is not a a set number. When we get the finals, that number will change. It probably won't change much.
Mhm.
But when we get the final, it will be somewhat different. So keep that in mind when the final one comes out.
Yeah, Jeff had mentioned that that information probably won't be available until maybe the end of next week. Would that sound about correct? Would that sound correct? to you?
Typically, they don't give them to us until September.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully, we'll get it early this year.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions before we start with each department? Maybe I should just ask that.
I think what we ought to do, Mary, is just kind of go sheet by sheet, go through the revenues for the administration and expenditures, and then go to the police and et cetera.
Okay.
So everybody, I don't need to jump in and take it.
Okay. So on page one then, we have our revenues. I had some questions. Again, I had asked Jeff about, and he did give me some clarification on some things. So if someone else has questions, I want you to please just ask. I'll just tell you what my questions were. Let's start there. On page one, under transfers, I noticed that there was a difference in $173,220, and it's gone down to $72,000. My question was just, what was that? And Jeff explained it that was the amount of money that is transferred from bank account to bank account. Like, for example, say money that is transferred from payroll account to the pool fund.
But if it's from bank account to bank account, why does it show as a revenue?
Let me, expound on that if I may. The non-proprietary departments such as the administration, the police, the fire, and those are supported by proprietary funds such as the sewer, water, and solid waste. The revenue above expenses that are generated by those three departments are transferred to support the non-proprietary ones. Now, even though the administration department receives revenue under the ad valorem taxes and franchise tax and that sort of thing, they're still not considered proprietary. So that's what that transfer is. It's very, very difficult to estimate what that transfer will be, because one year you'll have a lot of water sales, which is obviously more funds to be transferred, and then other years you'll have less water sales, which reduces that transfer. So what we've done in the past is we take a 5-year average and use that figure. So that's what that transfer is. But you're correct, it is also considered transfers into funds like the payroll account.
Mm-hmm.
So mainly it's a transfer of the revenue from proprietary funds that's transferred into it. That's what that figure is.
Well, my question to Jeff is why had it gone down, significantly? He just said that they were not making as many transfers as they once were.
And that could be because the revenues are not as high as they were in the past. It's probably a good number to use this year
Okay.
based on everything. But that's what it's for.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? Let's just start with the revenues on page one. Okay, expenditures on page one. One, animal control. I did ask Jeff about this because at one point I had asked him, a citizen was requesting, I guess, help with an animal or a dog that was being aggressive. And Jeff at the time said we didn't have anyone to take care of that. But he is saying, he told me on the phone that we need to change that amount to $30,000 instead of $26,790 because they have Pilot Point, in Pilot Point, about the piece they're called Dog something or another. And this is the same company that was talked about last year during the budget workshop. I did request the audio for last year's budget workshop so I could try to get updated on what was going on. So it's the same company, but I guess apparently the amount has gone up. So that would need to be changed to $30,000. This is the dog catcher that will return an animal if someone calls and says, hey, you picked up my animal. Could you?
The communication with animal control people we talked about last year, are they gonna do that again?
No, Ben was,
I went and had a meeting with them last Friday, and I got information about all that.
Could you speak up there for us, please, at the mic?
Yeah.
Thank you. The biggest reason we're trying to use the mics is because people can't really hear the audio on the video.
Gotcha. Does that work?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for years, animal control was taken care of through the city of Sherman. We had no problems. They allowed everybody that was in cities and unincorporated parts of Grayson County to bring animals in. They would take them for a $50 flat fee and take care of it from there. Then Sherman PD took over the animal control and new management, and one thing led to another. They changed their system, so no longer is it $50 to turn an animal in. It is, I believe, $450 per animal, plus $50 for every day that the animal is there for over 3 days. And they won't come pick anything up, or anything has to be taken to them. So that's what they've done. And at this point, animal services everywhere is so crowded with animal returns. They're calling the Great COVID Return time. They're not taking anything from anyone. Plus $50 for everything. Interesting. Okay. So anyway, they talked about this last year with All-American Dogs out of Pilot Point. It didn't go anywhere, to my knowledge, or anything. Then we started having animal issues that'll pop up every now and then. More recently, back in July, we had one, an injured, kind of aggressive German Shepherd on the front porch as a stray. We didn't have anything that we could do about it. I don't have the equipment necessary anymore. I am certified to do animal services, but we just don't have the equipment, the location, anything involved to do this. And thereby got permission, spoke to Jeff, and the best recourse we could come up with was to reach out and have All-American Dogs come out and do this. And the charge that they did for that, for a one-time charge, was $450, just like Sherman would have. But in this case, they drove from Pilot Point, caught the animal, took it to their facility, and took care of it from then on, and we don't have to mess with it at all. So I reached out to them with permission and set up a meeting and went out and talked to them. And they sent me this information sheet afterwards. I'll just read it here real quick. For the city of Howe, the pricing is population-based. They're guessing, and from what they could find, was $4,000 yearly for 4,000 people, a yearly contract of $30,000. And that's 10% equipment portion, animal control, $3,000 due upon the signing of the contract, with the remaining payment will be $22.50 a month for 12 months. A little bit on their qualifications. They were founded in 2007 in Pilot Point. They're state certified and inspected by the Department of State Health Services. They have 80 individual inside temperature controlled dog runs and outdoor exercise areas. They have 32 certified rabies quarantine runs, 4 full-time and 2 part-time certified animal control officers, 2 state certified code enforcement officers, 5 full-time, 3 part-time kennel attendants. They have 24-hour on-site supervision, 7-day-a-week response from 9 to 5 all calls, and 24/7 days a week for emergency responses. Their patrol services and emergency responses one for 1 hour patrols per week, 24 hours, 7 days a week for emergencies. Impoundment, boarding, 100% of domestic animals scanned for microchips. Animals impounded are posted on websites for identification and quick return. There are animal adoptions using Facebook, Pet Finder, Adopt a Pet, outside adoption events, and a dedicated website where animals are all posted for adoption and review. It says, All American Dogs was founded on the principles of customer service, safety, integrity, animal welfare, and common sense. All American Dogs currently works with 30 plus cities providing animal control and or sheltering services. I spoke to Van Alstyne today, and they are also apparently going to seek the services of All American Dogs as well.
Thank you.
But we've got not just this. I toured their facility. It was a beautiful facility, as much as it could be privately owned. Their 90% adoption rate, which is extremely well, and the dogs and other animals that have to be euthanized will be ones that are unrehabilitatable for aggression or something to that effect, or extreme injury. They will come out and handle dog bites, which is something that they could actually take from the police department to get that off their shoulders. And that's 24/7. They'll pick them up, quarantine them. They'll allow people to quarantine at their facility. They will come take poisonous snakes out of people's homes. They will get wildlife if inside the home need be. They will also, at the resident's expense, come out and trap for wildlife. If we have a stray dog that's bitten someone or a cat, they will come set a trap out and try to catch it that way. And quarantine anything that we need done for them as well, or for us as well. We're only getting bigger, and the animal problems, at 450 a pop, that's only 66 calls. Or just about that, 66 calls. So I think this would be a very good
Thank you, appreciate it very much. Does anyone have a question?
I know what Ben used to do, and I trust his opinion very much.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just moving down to, I'm just gonna go through some of my questions. So down at the bottom paragraph under expenditures, there's legal and consulting, developers legal, and legal special. And so my understanding was that legal and consulting is just that. Developers legal, the developers pay for that, but they reimburse us for charges that are placed, and then so it comes through that. And then the legal special, the way I was explained was that it would be for things that are not covered elsewhere. Would that be correct, Joe? Would you?
Pretty much, on the legal, developers legal, some of them will pay what that's for is to pay the city attorney and the engineer and anybody else that the city needs for their project.
So the legal special is for them?
Yeah, and a lot of times what will happen is that the developer will pay the attorney and the engineer directly.
Oh,
Even though
okay.
the city receives an invoice, it doesn't pass through us. We still do it that way, some of them. But we still need a line item in there for that.
All right. And then the salaries down there below, that is for the administration, which would include city administrator, city secretary, utility, court clerk, and a permit clerk, which we don't have, but it was budgeted for I guess last year, is that right, Jim? Okay. So last year it was budgeted for a permit clerk, so that is still included in the budget. And Jeff is proposing that they receive a 3% raise on that.
The numbers show more in 2022 than in 2023. Did you transpose those numbers on the 3% rate?
What was that?
The numbers in 2022 are higher on salaries than in 2023.
Yeah, we can't add people and give a raise instead of less money.
So the 2022-23 budget, it says it's $320,715. And then the proposed budget for 23-24 that Jeff has given, it says $286,456.
So it can't be a 3% raise.
Well, what's happened is that Lonnie's salary was included in the administration expenditures along with his insurance, Social Security and all that stuff. That's been moved to a different part, correct?
Correct.
So that's why that number is lower for 2024, or 23-24 than it was for 22-23.
Okay.
And the corresponding retirement and all that, that's why they're lower.
That makes sense.
Does anyone have any questions right now on page 1?
What is
Come back.
IMS transfer?
Joe, you want to speak?
Where's it at? What was
It's
that?
right under the legal special.
Fifth from the bottom on page 1.
The, INS transfers interest and seeking on payments that the city is taking out on either bond or certificate of obligations. It's, the INS and the bond payment are separate. One of them is paid in probably February, the other maybe September or something like that.
So it's interest?
It's interest and seeking, it comes out of the ad valorem tax, up there at the top of the revenues where it says INS fund,
Yes.
$100,000. That's just an offset for the, INS transfer.
So ultimately, we get it back, is what you're saying?
No, we don't get it back and pay it. The top two lines on the revenues, the ad valorem tax and INS fund are actually all the taxes, property taxes that the city will receive. Because there is an INS fund, it has to be separated out as a revenue, and then also indicated as a transfer on an expenditure. So we're still paying money, it just comes in here and goes out here. And that figure is a set figure on the payment. It's not just a general, how much are we gonna pay? No.
Okay, thank you. Again, we can kind of come back if we need to, here in a few minutes, but page 2, just moving on. Again, at the top, this is still for administration, because I did get clarification for that. Vehicle, again, my question is vehicle operation for $3,000, that's for gas expenditures like as such. There's a miscellaneous line for $5,000, I questioned that, and he said that was just something that would be like for something that would be unexpected. There is the city administrator vehicle allowance for $10,000, which Jeff has entered in, that's new.
So with
That's for
that,
his contract.
so his contract stipulates that the city can either provide him a vehicle for his sole use, or he can use this $10,000 a year vehicle allowance. $10,000 a year for his 5-year contract is $50,000. I believe it would be a much better use of citizen taxpayer dollars to purchase a vehicle for him to use for less than $50,000. I believe Joe, the city administrator, who drove the Jeep that Ben now drives, because I believe your truck is kaput, correct?
No, we, transferred my truck to Public Works, so they got another utility vehicle.
So if we looked at purchasing a vehicle for either Ben to use and give the Jeep back to Jeff, or Ben keeps the Jeep and we purchase something for less than $50,000 for Jeff to use, it would save the city money.
Makes sense. What are your thoughts?
Well, one thing to do is go back on promises made to the city administrator as far as the vehicle allowance, $10,000. should keep that in there. I understand your logic behind it, however, I disagree with it. I think it should stay in there.
Any thoughts from anyone else?
Which would you rather have?
You rather have a $10,000 allowance.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said, which would he rather have?
Oh, that I'm not sure of. I did not ask him.
It's a $10,000 allowance, you brought it up, it was brought up during last budget meetings.
So this was brought up once before?
It was.
Okay. Is that something that you all would like for me to ask him about?
Hurt to ask, but if it's something that we brought up, probably not a big deal.
We should, yeah, we should probably talk to him before we change it.
Okay.
If you'd rather have
Change
10,000.
the vehicle, then that makes sense, but if he's not, then we wanna talk through that for sure.
Okay. I'll ask him. I'll talk to him about it.
So, agree or disagree, it doesn't matter what the city administrator wants. We have to do, our charge is to do what is best for the city of Howe.
Well, it actually doesn't matter what he wants, because he's a city administrator, and he should have some input in this. And that, it's not an unreasonable request.
Are there any other cities where they're making 10,000 a year?
But, I don't know if they are or not. I haven't checked into that. That's a question that they can look into before the next budget meeting.
My thinking is we have to save as much money as we possibly can, because even in this budget, we don't have room for a wastewater treatment facility plant. We have to have one. We can't grow without one. Businesses are looking at us, and then they are turning away from us because we don't have the infrastructure to support them. So we have to be able to be as fiscally responsible as possible. And like I said, we can ask him, but in the end, our charge is not to do what's best for Jeff. Our charge is to do what is best for the city of Howe and its citizens.
I do agree with that.
Well, I'm sure you remember that administration has been working with developers on the sewer plant. To finance it.
When is the last time the administration has talked to the landowners?
I don't know that. I'm not in that everyday thing anymore.
It was before May.
Huh?
It was before May. Nothing has happened with the landowners since our first executive session in May.
We should probably stick to talking about the budget for the purposes of this meeting.
Before you decide on this question, that you should allow the $10,000 a year, it's only fair for Jeff be here to state his case for it. So right now, we need to leave it as it is.
But we're gonna have to have another budget meeting.
Yes, at least one.
All right. So we'll either I'll talk to him or he can,
I'm sure Jeff explained to y'all, maybe the new council members aren't aware of this. There's a certain day that the council has to submit a proposed budget. And I'm not sure what that day is, perhaps you know.
So Jeff explained it to me as though as if we need to have, supposed to have the budget in the city secretary's office 30 days prior to, Stephen's office. They want it, is it September 15th, Regina? Okay. I believe he told me it was September 15th is when Bruce Stephen wants it in his office, preferably, or maybe it's, ideally. And so Jeff is hoping to be able to get it in the office, in her office, which would be by tomorrow. And I told him I didn't think that would be able to happen, and he didn't think so either. He said ultimately it has to be in his office by October 1st. I think Jeff is trying to expedite things here because I think for some reason, this budget workshop didn't happen until now, and it probably should have happened in July.
When's the next scheduled budget workshop? Or is there one scheduled?
He didn't, when I talked to him, he did not have one scheduled, but we can certainly schedule one. Next city council meeting is next Tuesday on the 15th. If somebody wants to propose a date for the budget.
You can call a budget hearing, just need 72 hours in advance. My point is right now, the vehicle allowance for the city administrator needs to stay as it is until Jeff gets here.
Okay.
And so I think we can move on.
And we have one city council member that's out, so ideally, if we're gonna have another budget meeting, it'd be nice if Michael Hill could be here for that one as well.
Yeah, this was for TML last year, I can't find 2023, but last year, September 28th and 29th were kind of the big deadlines for the city.
Yeah, but there's some date that there has to be a proposed, not the final budget, but a proposed budget.
Okay, yeah, so the city should, last year, city should adopt the budget by September 29th.
Right, but there's an earlier date. That way it's in the city secretary's office and people can come and look at it.
Right.
It's not a final budget, but it represents something very close to what will be the final budget. And I'm not sure what that date is.
Okay, well,
Yeah, and last year, September 18th, the last day published notice of budget hearing, so that sounds pretty close to it.
Yeah.
so we've got time to have another budget meeting. Yes. All right, I will talk to Jeff and try to get something scheduled, and if you guys have a suggestion for a date, please feel free to give it to me. Okay? All right. Does anyone have any questions on that first paragraph on page 2 for the administration?
Is the EDC training gonna be moved under the,
Yes, ma'am.
That be moved here.
Okay. So that
Needs
needs
to go out.
Okay. So we can have that taken off. Anything else on that first paragraph? Then we have the police department, salaries. They are requesting a 3% raise, or Jeff is proposing a 3% raise for them. And the salaries are $612,744. There's a vehicle operation for $30,000. Chief, is that, is the $30,000, is that just for like gas expenditures, things like that?
It is, gas, repairs,
Okay, and then the vehicle lease, we lease vehicles, I guess, sport cars, or is that like a,
no, ma'am, we don't lease anymore. If it has lease on it, that would be for payments,
okay, so,
for a loan.
so vehicle payments. So I did have a question about the 3% pay raise, not because I don't think the police department doesn't deserve pay raises, but I do have a question because when I did request the audio from the last year's budget, the police have received a 15% pay raise, and according to the audio, that the other departments did not receive a pay raise. Would that be correct?
I can't say that the other departments did not receive the pay raise. I know that they didn't receive the large pay raise that the police department received. I can say that.
The
So,
police department said large raise last year to try to be competitive with other cities. Now, I don't know what the salary, how they compare now, but I'm sure it's on the very low end. So 3% raise is probably not enough, considering how difficult it is to hire officers at the salaries we're paid.
Can I speak?
Yes, would you mind,
Sure.
if you don't mind, just so we can have your audio? Thank you.
And I had the documentation, I had one copy, but it was the budget proposal. I need that. It was the budget proposal that I submitted, 2022. And it was because when we compared ourselves to every agency in Grayson County, we were at the bottom. We weren't at the absolute bottom, but we were certainly competing for the bottom. So what I did in the proposal, I found, I think the low end, who we competed with, not Van Alstyne, not Anna, but Grayson County Sheriff's Office. And that's what I shot for, is to try to get us to their, I believe, I want to say their entry level. Not even their top out pay for our pay. I think we got us to about that. But we're still below the average. And the other agencies that we've had in a sense now. But we're a lot better than what we were. So we were treated very well last council meeting, or I'm sorry, last budget. And I believe the plan was to move the other city employees up significantly the following year. So that's why I was asked this year. You know, we're still below, but I was being modest and asking for just a 3%.
Okay. And then currently we have 4 officers,
For now.
including yourself, is that right? And then you have one city, or one administrator?
Correct.
Okay. One police administrator?
Correct.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, what about the vehicle allowance? Is it not in here?
Under the police department, it says, vehicle operations.
That's different than the police chief's vehicle allowance.
Oh, okay.
Last year,
I don't know what you're looking at.
His contract is stipulated differently than Jeff's. Jeff's has the option.
that's not a question. The question is, do you still want, would you prefer to have a vehicle allowance or drive a police car?
I will.
Which one?
Vehicle allowance. I'm fine with it.
It was what, $500 a month? Is that what it was? Or is?
I believe it's 6.
It is.
$600 a month?
Yes, sir.
That needs to get added in here too.
Okay, $500 a month.
600.
Excuse me.
7,200.
7,200.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Chief Husband while he's up?
Uniforms. They're kind of one and done. You lost 3. Do you have any in the pipe that you're gonna need to get outfitted?
I have 2 applicants, but I can't speak to where they're at right now.
I'm just asking, do you need more than the 4 to get them outfitted, or will that cover with what we lost and what you need to get the possible new ones outfitted?
I believe if we repeat the same budget, we'll be fine.
What type of training do the police officers go through?
Are you talking about, like, once they're already hired, or?
Yeah, like ongoing training, because I see that there's a line item for training. I just don't know if that's typically training that is provided by the state or federal, or.
So we get, council approves, one of those line items is council approved, it comes out of, what the council gives us. The other one, I think it shows 820 something, that comes from the state, that's given to us from the state. So what we do, our officers get most of the training online, so we don't spend a lot of money going, off to schools. But some schools we just absolutely have to send them to. So they're mandated by TICO to obtain 40 hours every 2 years. Every 2 years they have to have 40 hours. They at least get that. We've never failed to get those, training hours. If they do fail to get the training hours, they're suspended, their license is suspended. But once they're hired, they have to go through a field training program that's at least 12 weeks. And that's a structured program, and the only way to shorten that is if they have experience and they've gone through a similar FTO program.
So the $3,000 that it shows here is enough to get that 12-week training for 2 possible new officers and the ongoing training we need this year.
There's also another line item down below that says LEOSE.
Yeah, that's the $800 something dollars.
It's budgeted for 1,000.
I think that may be an error, but
Is that what you referred to when you talked about the state?
yes, ma'am. And it varies from year to year, comes from the state comptroller's office. But when I say that 12 weeks, they're riding with one of our officers that's a field training officer. So it's not costing more money as opposed to sending them off to school.
Does anybody else have any questions right now for Chief Howe? I think so. Let's go down then to the fire department. So, under salaries, that's the big ticket line item there, $400,000. Jeff is proposing, and Chief Monet will probably want you to come up and speak on this case, but in Jeff's proposal, he's proposing that we try to move forward to have a full-time fire department. Would that be correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Just fire and ambulance or just fire department?
It's gonna be fire and ambulance is what this is. So
and then
that,
the salary, excuse me, it would be for the fire chief plus 6 employees. Would
yes,
that be
ma'am,
correct?
that's what it would be. The 6 full-time employees would be full-time on the ambulance, running them, 24/7, ambulance. They would also be firefighter experienced. That way, if we do, they can help with the volunteer division on assisting with fires. Yes, ma'am.
So that's beyond 24 on, 48 off.
It'll be 24 on, 48 off, yes, sir. We'll do the 6 people, which will be 2 A shift, B shift, C shift.
I think we talked about this before, Chief, when you plan on this thing being fully operational?
Well, we got our final paperwork submitted. We have our final inspection next week through dishes. I've got 7 days to wait on DEA paperwork, and then after that, we're just gonna wait on the employees.
Well, I go back to my question, when do you expect this to be fully operational? Or when would you hope it to be fully operational?
At the very latest, October 1st.
When this budget goes into effect?
That would be my
Go.
That would be my goal,
Is
absolutely.
that a realistic goal, Chief?
I'm sorry,
Is it realistic?
that is realistic.
Alright.
And then we would have to, if we move forward with this, then we would have to post, my understanding is we would have to post the job. Is that correct?
For,
Fire chief.
yes, so they'll have to go against, you guys have to vote in an ordinance, and then you have to post the job for 30 days. Hire who you want, and then that person can go ahead and start posting for the EMS and the fire side as soon as that's done.
Like I said, again, you're the fire chief. So we have to post your job.
I'm the volunteer fire chief as of right now.
Gotcha, okay.
So Chief Monet can apply for it.
Right.
But we have to publicly post it to give other people fair opportunity to apply.
Distributor Scott,
Yes, sir.
several years ago, we didn't hire him full-time. What we appointed him, we council appointed him, fire chief, with a small stipend. So he's not a city employee yet, but you are officially the fire chief.
Yes, sir.
Could I ask a question?
Yes,
What is Gunner gonna do? Because us and Gunner seem to be really similar in the lack of fire department area.
As into,
And then fire and ambulance coverage, because I know they were trying to get Salina to cover them and
So-
Salina backed out, so.
I can't speak, for them completely, but they have reached out to us, for future involvement and help. I don't know what the gunner fire chief in the city's gonna technically do with them.
You know if they're running ambulances, and if not, if we would be able to contract
No,
ambulances?
so right now, Van Alstyne is running gunner until October first, and then come October first, Van Alstyne's gonna do the same thing. I think they got us to pull out because they're very busy for their own city. So come October first, gunner, I hate to say it, it's kind of on their own for right now. Now, that is an option that we could look into and try to go forward that to help with this budget. But it's also gonna be up to the gunner city. Do they wanna wait 15 minutes for an ambulance to get there, or from Howe?
Is Dorchester in a similar situation?
Dorchester has reached out to us, and they do want us to continue to cover them, and I've got meetings with them actually next week for their council meeting for EMS involvement and fire involvement.
so to clarify, you're talking about how fire department or an EMS servicing gunner.
If they contract with us and pay
Okay.
contract with us.
So as of right now, with our county contracts, Dorchester is in the Howe Fire District. So we run them now with the volunteer fire side of it with a county fire contract. Now, once the EMS starts and comes into play, that's not part of the county contract, and that'll have to be where we go to negotiations and ask for money to get that on, so we can run them 100% also.
It's my understanding the county is also intending to cut back or eliminate the fire contracts and subsidies it pays, so we're gonna be on our own or have to form an emergency management district.
So they're working on what they call an ESD, Emergency Service District. I don't know where that is right now in the talks. I have not been told anything about cutting the fire contracts, but I know they're not getting increased right now because they're working on increasing EMS county budgets to assist us, because Grayson County does have a problem right now with emergency medical services and enough ambulances to run the calls.
So on the revenues for the fire department and the ambulance, I know that a lot of them are probably projections since we don't have that yet, but what did you base the numbers off of?
So we took 3 similar departments. We took White Wright, Preston EMS, and before we used Bell Savoy. And we took what their call volume is compared to our call volume, base it off of what we just approved for our EMS billing, and that's how we came up with what that is. Now, on that revenue, that county ambulance contract, that is not a set in stone number, that is the average. It could be more, it could be a little bit less. It won't go much less, but it could go quite a bit more. The more run district you cover, the bigger your contract is.
So with 6 employees, would you be able to cover enough to meet that $150,000?
Yes, ma'am. As long as the 6 employees, if we get the entire Howe Fire District, which is Dorchester, Alton, and Sherman, without taking any gunner, the 6 would be able to do the 150 plus call.
If the same 6 employees are handling both, what happens if you have a major disaster that requires everybody in the fire department to be there, and then you also need paramedic services?
Yes, ma'am. So with that, we have decided to keep what we call the volunteer division. So we're not gonna get rid of our volunteers. We're not gonna make them not work, or they can still do exactly what we're doing now. we're just adding another tool to the toolbox with these 6 full-time EMS guys. With that, I think it's 7, fixing to be 8 of my volunteers are paramedics now. So they still want to volunteer, they still want to be here. So that's where we would go with a major disaster. We would just basically do what they call an all-call. Call in the volunteers plus the EMS, and we would run the call just like we would now, just with the ambulances.
So with those volunteer fire department, those volunteers now for the fire department, are they, with these jobs, I should say, the 6 employees, would that be something that the chief would hire, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And are those employees that you say are EMS workers now, are they employees or volunteers that would be interested in this job, or?
There are some that are interested in doing it full time. Everybody that's on the fire department now that's any type of EMS certified, they all want to be put on our PRN list, our part-time list. That way we can call. You have to have that in case you have vacation, sick time, things like that. They all want to do that. Now, full time, some of them do work other places, myself included. That sometimes it's hard to do 48s, 72s, and some of them are recently married, some of them have little kids. So I'm not gonna ask that. But there are some that are. But we have had a ton of interest already that are just waiting for me to post the jobs.
So I just was wondering, would that EMS, would that take from our fire department?
No, it would not take from the fire department. No, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else have questions?
Could I ask one?
Yes, sir.
Would we be able to service Gunner with 6 if they wanted to contract with us?
Now that would have to be looked at because I know in the past Gunner has brought to the attention that they want a full-time ambulance in their city. If that's something and they would like to negotiate with us, then we would have to look at hiring more people to staff that station full-time. But as of right now, the six full-time employees would be able to help cover Gunner, but not sit there and wait for their calls. It would basically be running the same way Ben Austin's running it right now. If they get a call, they run from Ben Austin to Gunner, and then they go back to their home in Ben Austin.
I know that the council had voted to make some new storage space for the vehicles
Yes, ma'am.
at the fire department, but I don't see any of that included in here. Has that project been completed?
It has not, so I believe it's on the council meeting for this month, I believe. We just got the paperwork from Nolan for the engineering and all that for that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is actually a question I had myself. And I asked Jeff, and he said that I took notes. He said that it was a tax note, because I asked where that $50,000 would come from, because I wanted to make certain that we had that money in the budget for those, that expansion. And he said that money is set aside, that $50,000 is set aside in a separate bank account, is what Jeff is saying to me. So, because I wanted to clarify that.
Set aside where?
According to what Jeff tells me, he said that $50,000 is set aside in a separate bank account. He said he called it a tax note. So he said it is put aside for fire department upgrade. He said it would be like fire department or police department, one of the two. And he says that the $50,000 is there. Now I can double check on that. Do you know anything about that, Virginia?
Well, I think still needs to be put in the budget, considering it's going to be expense.
Right. I agree with that.
And if the revenue's already there, that needs to show a transfer,
Right.
offset that.
And we would need to put that under fire department. Would you agree? Okay. Right, because I want to make sure that that's included. And just like with the other departments, I just was seeking clarification from Jeff Vehicle operation, $27,000, that's for like gas.
Fuel, tires, batteries, hoses, things like that.
And then we have a vehicle lease
Yes, ma'am.
for $33,000.
So that number was taken off of a base of an average of a new battalion, a new chief car, whatever you want to call it. That number does not have to be, that's not a set in stone number.
So my understanding from Jeff was that vehicle lease was actually like the payment for the ambulances.
Payment for the ambulances?
Yes.
You plan on buying another vehicle or?
Well, we're planning on trying to buy like a new battalion or a vehicle
But
that,
you're making payments on ambulances, correct?
yes.
So, if you're gonna buy another one, there needs to be another line item
Okay.
for whatever it is, traffic, brush truck or ladder truck, whatever it is. So you need, and you've done this before, you need to find out how much it's gonna cost and figure out, we can figure out what the payments are gonna be. So this is for, this $33,000 or whatever it is payments for the ambulance. And he wants to buy what kind of truck?
Basically, it's a new command truck,
What?
a new battalion, a command truck.
A new battalion.
Like a
Would that be the
SUV
chief?
or?
That'd be for the chief or whichever,
So you're not looking at a fire truck, you're looking at something like
an expedition Tahoe or something.
Right.
Because I asked Jeff specifically about, did this budget include a vehicle allowance of any kind for if we were to hire a chief full-time? And he specifically said no, because I thought maybe that would be, that 30,000 was for that.
Okay.
So I figured it showed that that needs to be, we need to get a line item for that.
Okay.
You understand what I'm asking?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone have any questions, any other questions for Chief? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The Howe Community Facilities Development Corporation. Page 3.
I've got a couple of questions right off the bat.
Yes, sir.
Community services expenditure, it's got the, it's on the next page. It's got the front door of this building, maintenance and cleaning. Is that gonna fall under?
That's not on our budget. I'm not sure what budget you're looking at.
I asked about it, this item.
I know it's not on your budget, it's on the, community service budget.
I didn't factor that in this budget, so no.
So-
Let me rephrase the question. Cleaning, maintenance and cleaning for this building is, 4B.
I think it can come under the Collins Memorial, if it needs to. I'm not asking for that budget, though. I'm not asking for
I'm not
that.
asking for it, the question is, do you think it should be budgeted under the 4B or not?
I do not.
Okay. And also, you and I talked about this, and I apologize, because it was an oversight on mine last year. What about your vehicle allowance? Is it not on here?
I'm not asking for a vehicle allowance.
So if I might, give a little clarification on a couple things. I actually asked Jeff about page 4, under Summit Gardens maintenance, Summit Gardens cleaning. Originally, both of those line items were $1,200, and they're both blank. And I asked Jeff why they were blank, and he said the reason they were blank was because they were not used last year, so he left it blank.
Yeah, I didn't request any of those funds last year. And Mr. Shepherd, I do appreciate the sentiment on the vehicle allowance, I really do. But we have factored that in on our EDC budget, but moved it from vehicle allowance to salary. So I really appreciate that.
So now we can move that $1,200 for both of those line items back in.
No, that's not necessary. I just wanted to clarify that since this is.
So one way to factor that is with the Collins Memorial account, since that is established for this building and this facility. So we passed our EDC budget last night. Not that we can't go back and make an adjustment, but we have passed that budget, which doesn't include that. So that's why I would recommend the Collins
Budget y'all
Memorial.
passed is in actually what we got right here.
I'm not sure what you have right there. But our expected, revenues are $136,127.13, and I have it broken down.
What you need to do, Lonnie, you need to give the budget that y'all passed to the mayor and Jeff so they can factor it in.
We have it. I
When
have
did
a
they
copy.
get it?
Well, they got, initially, about 3 weeks ago, and then, the approved budget this morning, since we had the meeting last night.
We got these Friday.
Okay.
This not, your approved budget obviously not approved because it wasn't approved till last night, correct?
Yes, sir.
You'll need to resubmit the budget y'all passed
Yes.
to the mayor and Jeff so they can update this thing.
Yes. And they received that this morning.
Like I said, we got this Friday.
Yeah, I have.
I like what we need to
If you
do.
want me to review this budget, I'm happy to do so.
Well, no, if it's not the budget y'all passed, we don't.
It is the
we'll
budget.
send review of this.
No, this is the budget we passed. I have this right here. This is the
I'm
budget.
talking
we
about this
passed.
right here, Mark, the one we got Friday.
Yeah, if y'all have any questions about the budget that we passed last night, I'd be happy to review.
We don't, but we will at the next meeting. What we need to do is just move on. And now Jeff put that budget into what we did.
And I requested that he
Well,
include.
the product, like Bonnie said, they didn't put it in last night. So we just need to move on, because we're gonna have another
Okay.
people in the budget here.
Sure. I'll make certain that all the department heads' budgets are included into a new packet, so that, and into this main proposed budget.
Thank you.
That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
So what I'm proposing we do is add back the $1,200 in each of the line items for some of our maintenance and cleaning. Since it's gonna have to come from the Collins Memorial Fund, it needs to be on the budget anyway.
I don't see a revenue item for the Collins Memorial Fund. I know that's where a lot of the maintenance came out of before. And the council had to vote on it, so it might be easier if we include rental income in the budget if we have an idea of what that's gonna look like.
And that will fluctuate, obviously. I don't know exactly. I do know that we've got an income revenue of about 8,000 right now for the year, so we can project it out probably about 11. Because, spring's a big season. The back half of the year is not real big on wedding showers and stuff, so. If I were to set a budget, it would be 11 or 12 for that now, for the revenue.
Is it in that budget y'all passed last night?
But you want that included
Under community services, if we're gonna have the maintenance.
a revenue for some gardens.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Solid waste revenues, trash, I should have asked, I'm sorry. Anybody have any other questions before we move on from EDC?
I don't have questions about EDC, but I don't wanna skip streets. I know it's a hot topic.
Oh, yes, thank you, because I have it right here, I have a question for that too. Yes, streets. So, currently, under street repair, it is, Jeff is proposing $84,202, and I'm proposing we make that $200,000. And we start working on some streets.
So, is Public Works the department that deals with street repair now typically?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Sarah, what, do you mind repeating that one more time?
Is your department who deals with street repair typically now?
So typically right now, yeah, we do street repair,
Currently, right now, we operate, as far as in any line items and streets, typically Public Works operates out of street repair and street supplies. Are the two items in which we operate out of. Of course, in my proposed budget, I did propose, that was the only increase I proposed in the streets category was to increase the street repair budget to $160,000 for some obvious reasons around town to start to rehabilitate some of these streets. And typically, in the last 2-year trend that I've done for expenditures wise within my Public Works department, I'm using about roughly half to nearly 3/4 of what is currently being budgeted just in asphalt factory.
With the 160,000, I know that some common complaints that I hear from citizens are ways that citizen property is put back after repair has been done, and that the asphalt patching over time has stopped working and it's actually making some problems worse. How would a proposed increase, would that help that, or would you get special equipment, or what does that look like?
So the proposed increase I put on wouldn't necessarily go towards complete street rehabilitations, but would be geared more towards that same trend of just upkeep, potholes, fill in potholes, upkeep of the current streets conditions of trying to lessen the damage, the ongoing damage. As far as full street rehabilitations, those get fairly expensive. I think the last time I kind of surveyed and done research, roughly about $500 a square foot right now as far as paving street cuts. So you basically just, like go out the street, take these chalk drop, 1 foot square in the middle of the street, and there's basically $500 right there. So I firmly believe as far as full street rehabilitation, the way to go about that would be to either increase $500,000 or heavily looking at grants and bonds and things of that nature. That's currently has been, as far as full rehabilitation for streets here in Howe, historically in my employment, that's kind of been the primary lead is to look at grants. A lot of times those are focused around income or focused around government housing and things like that. So they are scarce, and there's a lot of stipulations that come with them, and it's hard to find ones that can match and meet the circumstances for. Currently, that's our best form of rehabilitating streets right now is through grants.
So if we were to increase that budget significantly, and let's say we pick a street, start working on a street, and we could maybe have a goal of working on a street per year, do you think if we were to increase that budget to say $200,000, is that something realistic?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
And is there a street, for instance, that you would suggest or recommend?
First street that cost my mind would be West Duke Street. It's a heavily traveled street. It's kind of a crossover street as far as in-town roads, as far as going from 75 corridor to Highway 5 corridor. Plus another factor of that, you've got the government housing on that same street as well, and it is used for bus routes and parent drop-off and pick-up routes during the school year as well. So it picks up a lot of traffic through a lot of months of the year.
Okay. And is that something, the county commissioner though, since that's not a county road, that we would not work with them on that, but if we at some point did another road, how does that work with the county commissioner?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, Mr. Shepherd was involved in a major renovation on Ponderosa Road where we did an interlocal agreement, and he might be able to talk to that project, because I believe the county was involved and the ISD was involved in that situation, but it did help on revenue, on our expenditure on that project, because we did have some help. But an interlocal agreement might be something that
That is
possibly.
one form. So the city does have a mutual agreement with the county. They allot a certain amount of hours for street side brush cutting and things like that on some of the rural gravel streets where the tree lines need to be cut back, pothole patch repairing. So they do allow the take a certain amount of hours. They will also do other, street rehabilitation work, but they separately quote that and, charge the city.
Okay.
The deal on Ponderosa is unique, because like Mike said, it involved all three, the county, the school, and the city, so that was a unique thing we probably won't get into again. One of the biggest gets in my bonnet is everybody who lives in the city of Howe pays city taxes on the city. We also pay county taxes. But we don't get the services to help on roads, even though we're county residents, so the people who live here in town get, well, I won't say what I want to say. If you live out in the county, you know, your house is valued the same as my house, but you're getting the county to fix your road, but they're not helping you fix my road. Let me ask a couple of questions, maybe we can speed this whole thing up. I got an email from you the other day with the budget.
Yes.
Is it included in the one I got Friday? This budget right here that's sitting in front of us, I take it is the same budget all this got.
So.
You wanna look at this real quick and see if this.
I was gonna say, I didn't send my
The
budget out.
question is, you wanna look at this real quick and see if this is part of the budget that you sent the other day. There's a safe, there's a street, there's a sewer, there's a wastewater. Is this the budget that you sent me, us in the email the other day?
Yes.
All right. Obviously, we don't have that budget from you. What about your budget? Is it the one that we got right here?
I sent this,
The question is, your budget, we have your budget right here.
that being the question, the answer is I don't know.
All right, let me see what you.
I can answer
I
that
can make
question.
copies if you would like. I've got a printer here.
You're gonna have one over here, I'm jumping on this leg.
And Joe, I can answer that question for you, if you'd like. So the department heads the department heads were supposed to have submitted their proposed budget to the city administrator.
By when?
I don't know when he received them, but then the city administrator put together this proposed budget, and it did not match up. And I did question him on that. He didn't really have an answer. So I asked for the individual department heads' budget. So, that's why I was pointing out that this proposed budget is the city administrator's proposed budget.
All right, what we need to do, we need to have another budget meeting with Jeff to show up and tell us why he put this together, what he did, with what information he got. Because Mickey's, what I looked at the other day is totally different from what's right here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Not yours, we haven't seen yours, I haven't seen yours.
Well, and I had talked to some of the department heads, and that's the reason I asked for the budget.
This is the one I printed from your email.
That number's the one.
Yeah.
No, that ain't.
That's not yours.
That,
Thought that was from you.
no, that's public works.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
My bad.
I agree with Joe. I think that if the budget we're talking about doesn't actually reflect what the department heads have asked for, then basically we're asking questions that don't.
Well, that's the problem, this may be the budget Jeff put together based on the information he got from the department heads, but we don't know
Right.
that, okay? He needs to be here.
I agree.
Well, what
I don't know how else to do it, I mean, what's the use going through all this if we can't answer the questions?
What I will do is, if for some reason, like, Ben, I don't have your budget,
Okay.
I would like to have a copy of that, please. I don't
think I have Chief Hudman's itemized budget either. And so what I'll do is I will put it together.
I have a question.
So that, yes, sir.
I have never put a budget together.
Uh-huh.
I found the previous budget. Now, I was under the understanding that my pay came from the administration end, but it wasn't mentioned when we were reading through that earlier.
Right.
So that was totally left off of my budget. That being the case, I need to reevaluate mine altogether and add that stuff in, but
You don't want to work for free?
once I left this area,
You live out in county, don't you?
yes,
Your salary is included in the administration budget.
it is.
Yes.
Okay.
So actually, because I actually asked Jeff about that, because I had several questions.
Well, again, you know, we're gonna sit here and ponder, so we asked about Jeff, I'm sure he did. He needs to be here to explain what has happened, so there's really no sense, I don't think, of us continuing this until he can be here.
Okay, so, but just so you're aware, under solid waste revenues, the trash is where he has listed Ben's salary.
Solid waste.
Yes, and I don't know why he did that, but he has, that, because it does not say who salary, and so I asked. So that is actually Ben's salary. And then under wastewater revenue, if you go to page 5, that salary is Mickey's salary. And then the rest of the department work salary is under page 5, under water revenues. So I'm not, because there was a lot of confusion there for me, which is why I asked.
Well, I feel this way that,
I recommend you keep
the
it.
proprietary salaries are supposed to be divided up into what they do. But that's an impossible task, and Mickey can't tell you that he spends 25% of his time on the streets, 30% of his time in the water, 40% of the time in the sewer, and how much does that add up to?
95%.
And then 5% of the time doing paperwork.
Right.
Idealistically, the salaries of all the city administration and Mickey and his department are supposed to be divided up based on the amount of time they spend on each one. So what we've done in the past is as much as we can guesstimate. They probably spend more time when they did in the past fixing water leaks than they do unplugging sewer.
Right.
We spend very little time on the solid waste department.
Especially now, taking the most recent phase with the vendor.
So what we did, and it's the same with the office staff. One of the office staff spends almost all of her time on water bill. And the other on administrative stuff. So how do you divide that up equally? The point of that is, Mickey's salary may be in that one, and the other guy's in the other. But realistically, it balances out. You get what I'm saying? Even though one may be 80,000, the other may be 50,000, they spend more time doing this than do that.
Sure.
But again, back to my point, until Jeff can be here and stand right there and tell us, he may have had all these, a chance to look at these budgets and decide this is what he wants to propose. He needs to be here to tell us that.
Okay. So I would suggest that the department heads make corrections to your budget that need to be made. And Ben and I recommend adding your salary into your budget.
No, his
No?
budget's in the administration, it's already in there.
Well, it's not listed though under administration. That according to what Jeff is telling me.
All right, well, it should be. That's what I'm saying, that's why we need Jeff here.
Okay.
Don't matter to be your budget, but you need to sit down with Jeff. All of y'all need to sit down with Jeff and go over the budgets.
Did you guys do that?
I asked for a meeting on June 15th and didn't get a response.
I'm
Okay.
telling you to do it, all right?
So
I wish I was there.
were you guys able to sit down with him?
No, I just submitted my budget proposals by email to everyone over the week.
Okay, the only department head that is not here is Chief Hudman, is that right? Okay, because he left a little early, all right. So Regina, would you mind send an email asking him to submit his itemized budget? I would prefer it if he would email me a copy as well, everybody who will, is of course city administrator as well. And then I'll talk to Jeff about this. All right, well, any other questions? Thank you, sir. Any other questions at this time or comments?
You need to put it in the budget, build a step out here.
Collins Memorial Park, please.
A step for Joe. Okay.
Man always walk with a tennis ball.
Tennis ball.
Now put some hooks on the motorcycle, hang it on the road.
All right, the council, since the council will not be taking a motion at this time, if there's no further business to come before this council, this meeting stands adjourned at 7:20.